Management Authority, City of Crescent City, County of Del Norte, State of California, this November 16th, 2021. And I will ask our clerk if you would please call the roll.
Commissioner Short.
Here.
Commissioner Inscore.
Here.
Commissioner Starkey.
Here.
Commissioner Tompkins.
Here. Very good. If you are able and so inclined to stand and join us for the Pledge of Allegiance. Ready and begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. We will begin our meeting with general public comment. Any member of the public can address the Solid Waste Management Authority on any matter on or off our agenda. Each speaker will be allotted 3 minutes to make their comment. Do we have any general public comment for our meeting this afternoon? All right, seeing no public comment, we will close public comment. We'll move on into our open session items. On consent, we have the regular session minutes from the 19th of October, as well as a claim 9099 to North Coast Laboratories for a total of $10,764.
Move to approve consent.
I have a motion by Commissioner Short to approve. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Second by Commissioner Starkey. Any public comment on our two consent items? Seeing none, we'll close public comment, bring it back, and I'll ask the clerk if you would please poll the vote.
Commissioner Tompkins.
Yes.
Commissioner Starkey.
Yes.
Commissioner Inscore.
Yes.
Commissioner Short.
Yes.
Very good. We'll move on into item number 2, which is our director's report, and we will start with the director's report, and then we'll move on into our financials after that. So, Director Ward.
Yes, thank you, Chair Inscore. During the main message I want the board to understand is you have a great staff, and unfortunately, we don't have very many of us left. We currently have 7 total employees of a total staffing chart of 10. So we are in the process of hiring, but I really wanted to highlight this in that, of course, Kira Seymour, who usually serves as clerk and as facilities and programs coordinator, is not here because she had a family emergency. But she does great work, so we're a little short there. And Kathy and Haley were just doing interviews for some of the applicants for our open positions. So that was their morning. So, and now she is here clerking. So great job, Kathy and Haley, and our staff is just working double time to try to fill in all these gaps and make sure that we continue to provide the services that we provide. And but Kathy is really in the crux of all of that, so this is an opportunity to thank and appreciate her because she does all the scheduling. And so when we have fewer bodies to go around, every last vacation, every last family emergency is a real hit to her specifically, because then she has to juggle the schedules and try to figure it all out. But she does a great job month after month, and now is a chance to recognize that particularly.
Absolutely. Well, thank you, Kathy. I'm sorry that you're having to take on the extra responsibility of being our clerk today, but we're grateful for you and for all the work that you do to keep this organization running on the practical side. So, thank you.
Glad I could help.
Yeah. So California State Parks conducted a cleanup this last month near Talo Dunes State Parks on November 6th. We are continuing to work with DDR hauling on Forest Service cleanups. Later on this agenda, we'll be talking about some of the Caltrans opportunities, and we'll be diving into some of the details on that. Regarding compliance, attached to the director's report is an acknowledgement from Cal Recycle that we've completed the electronic annual report. These are the kinds of regular things that we need to do to confirm that we're more or less in compliance and on track, and to keep Cal Recycle staff apprised of the kinds of things we're doing. The audit is currently very active currently. I appreciate the commissioners getting back to me on the information request from Albert Hu of Harshwall, and continuing to work with Kathy and Treasurer Rich Taylor to make sure that we're answering all of their queries as we complete the annual audit. Recology is in the midst of replacing out the street side recycling containers, so you'll probably see more of those in the coming weeks if you haven't already seen them. And also, I'd like to really appreciate John from Recology. He came and attended our most recent staff safety meeting because Recology is swapping out the bins that we use in the Gasky and Klamath transfer stations. We used to have a specially configured mechanism so that if the cranking system fails, the bin still locks in place so that there isn't that additional risk. But because it was a specialty fabrication, we had trouble getting parts and maintenance on that. We're switching back to a crank system with a safety chain. So John was there to show our staff about how to use that safely, and so we really appreciate that engagement. I'm continuing to work on the statewide commission on recycling markets and curbside recycling, and as I said, we're a little short-staffed right now, and we are going through a hiring process. So that's an overview of how this last month has gone, and normally, I guess I should also mention, typically this is the time of the year when I give you an overview of what's happened the last year, and I intended to do that, couldn't get to it. That's with the other juggling that was going on. With that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Okay. Board have any questions for Director Ward?
Nope.
I just want to highlight something that you just mentioned, and with Jeremy here, I have received numerous comments about the new trash and recycle bins. The general consensus is that they are amazing, and so just as a feedback, people are very, very pleased with them, and I hope that they all work out as well as we hope that they work out. But great upgrade, certainly makes an impression, because usually we get lots of complaints about things that people don't like. So when people take the time to reach out to acknowledge something that they do like, it's significant. And so this is a significant upgrade in our community, and people are noticing. And I just thought you should know that as well. So, yeah, thank you.
So continuing on with the financial reports.
Yes, please.
Looking at our cash flow, we have $1.358 million in the bank plus $198,000 for last month's rent. So that's just current cash flow. Looking at the claims approved by director, once again, you'll see that our largest payments go to Hambro WSG for the good services they provide at the Del Norte County Transfer Station. And our second largest payments are to the Del Norte County Auditor for the interfund cost plan, as well as the debit and service card charges. Increasingly, we are seeing customers using the cards rather than cash. So that is the board should be aware that in general, it is more expensive for this agency to provide services with cards because we pay those additional card services charges than when we receive cash. It's not a big difference, but you should be aware. So as customers increasingly use cards, that does overall have somewhat of an impact on authority revenues. With that, I'd be happy to, and then I had the supplemental thing I put in front of all of you, and there's an extra copy there. But this highlights our monthly totals, and again, because we're short-staffed, we're a little bit behind on that. But coming in pretty much as we expect. Typically, this time of the year, we start to see traffic slow down, especially since October was such a rainy month. We saw that the transfer station revenues for the authority were about 5,000 down from what they were the year prior. And generally, we're seeing those revenues increase, but I think it was because it was such a rainy month. Our franchise fees are coming in a little bit ahead of budget, so looking at it overall at this point in time, our budget is $33,000 ahead of budget in terms of our revenues. And as I've told you before, the reason why we report these two main sources of revenue is that so long as the rest of our budget stays within budget or we balance that out through budget transfers, this is a quick and easy way to say that our financial situation is improving. And so that's the nature of that report. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Okay. Any questions for Director Ward?
Yeah, just curious about the one line in about middle of the first page there on your AR summary.
Yeah.
The one that has the $225-ish. Over 90 days, but then we're allowing-
Actually, Kathy would be the best person to answer that.
Just-
You recognize that at all, Kathy?
I mean, you have, expanded on certain commercial users that have a payment system that would take us out there a ways, but it just looked odd that we have that payment that's over 90 days and then 000 and back to current, and now we're at 15,214.89 in new.
That is actually federal grant reimbursement.
Ah,
Oh,
Oh.
so it's not a bill. It's
It is a bill from us to the grant.
to the grant. Oh, gotcha. Okay.
so it
Yeah.
takes us a while to turn around those invoices to the grantor.
Well, yeah, anytime you're messing with the feds, you're probably not going to get paid on time, I imagine.
So I have asked, why is it taking so long on this $224? And the response I got was a form email saying that our staff is overwhelmed and we'll get to you when we can. So,
Very good. Thank you. Thank you, Kathy.
Gotta love government. All right, we don't have any,
And thank you, Commissioner Short, for asking that question while Kathy was here.
very good.
That was just luck. That's all
right.
that was.
Well, if there's not any other questions, then we will file the reports along with the additional printed copies that we were presented at the meeting. And we'll go ahead and move in to the rest of our agenda. We do not have any discussion or actions on the landfill post-closure collection franchise or transfer station. We do have a couple of general solid waste matters. The first is in regards to the Clean California local grant program.
Christina, could you bring up that one slide, please? So we're working with Caltrans in two ways on this Clean California grant. The first one, they approached us looking for, essentially, they wanted to have free days to allow people to bring in materials for no charge. And their overall thrust is to try to keep our roadways and our right-of-ways a little bit cleaner. And in our rural area like ours, we've got a lot of hills, we've got a lot of ditches, we've got a lot of back areas that get dumped upon. And so we worked with them to try to come up with something that made sense. In general, staff is not enthusiastic about free days, not because we don't like providing service to our customers, but because the net result of advertising that you're having a free collection event is that just like the Household Hazardous Waste Day, people get in the habit of waiting for the next free event, right? So what you don't want to do is say, we're going to have this free event, and who knows when the next one is going to be. What you want to do is say, we're doing a one-time only free event for these specific items, and so that's what we're doing. We're doing a one-time only free event for bulky items. That includes appliances, furniture, mattresses, and tires. And we're going to try to do these at 4 locations in the county, including Gasky, Klamath, Smith River, and Crescent City. So we want to emphasize to everybody these are intended as free events for those materials only. It's not a free solid waste day. It's just free for those bulky items that sometimes people accumulate and they are waiting for a time to get rid of. I'll also remind people, and we'll include this in our outreach, that if you're a Recology Del Norte customer, and you have been so for 90 days, they offer, as part of that service, under the contract administered by this agency, 2 free bulky item collections per year. So that could count as 1 refrigerator, or say a sofa bed that has a mattress in it, or 2 tires. You could also have up to 6 bags of trash that's been bagged, or a box of up to 100 pounds of household electronics. So those services are available for all Recology customers right now, but This free event is going to be a one-time only thing at each of our transfer stations and at a location yet to be determined in Smith River. So no need for people to drive from across the county to go to the free event in Klamath or Gasky, because there will be one coming to you before the end of this fiscal year. And that is our plan. But that said, December 11th, Saturday, is going to be our first free bulky item collection, and that will be at the Gasky transfer station from 10 to 4. The following day, December 12th, at the Klamath transfer station from 10 to 4, we'll also be receiving bulky items for no charge. We'll try to set up a separate traffic line for people who are just bringing in their household trash, but mostly that day. And we're looking to have assistance from the Yurok tribal staff to make sure that traffic doesn't get backed up too much. But that's the plan. December 11th and 12th in Gasky and Klamath, we're going to have the free bulky item days, and then we're going to plan for the spring and sometime in June for Smith River and Crescent City. So that's the first phase of what we're hoping to do with Clean California.
I have a quick question if I could.
Yeah, please.
So it's the first phase. Does Clean California, does Caltrans reimburse us since it's their grant, or is this just this is our partnership with Caltrans?
A little bit of both.
Okay.
Caltrans is going to pay the charges for all the bulky items that we receive that day. But they're not going to pay our staff time. They're not going to pay the Yurok tribal staff time. It's essentially, we're meeting them halfway. They're willing to offer this to our community. We want to participate and help everybody out. And if this is an additional benefit to our community, that's what we want to do. So, but it is a one-time only. So if you've got any furniture or appliances or mattresses or tires and you live in Gasky or Klamath, start planning on coming on December 11th in Gasky or December 12th in Klamath, because we'll take those for no charge on that day.
Are we going to use dedicated bins on those days so we can have accurate tonnage for this
We will be doing the
program?
same procedure in terms of counts that we've done before, but we will be working with Recology to make sure that we have as much capacity as we can, because this is new for us. We haven't done
Sure.
this kind of event, so it's a bit of a discovery process as to how much we will receive.
Okay.
Working
Yeah, I
with
was-
Recology on.
Is this an unlimited number of bulkies per household, or is it a restricted percentage per household?
At this point, we have not discussed any restrictions, but I think that's an excellent question. And
Are you worried with that statement?
are you aware of anyone who has an accumulation that's like greater than 5? Klamath, many. The idea of this is to try to do a purge, but I think Mr. Herber brings up an excellent point, and we should discuss any potential limitations.
Would the plan in Crescent City be at the transfer station?
It would be, yes.
Because I could imagine an incredible overload of customers. They're totally disrupting.
Well,
the day,
that's,
yeah.
but this is part of the reason why we proceed with caution with respect to these events. There are memorable stories in other situations. One that comes to mind is the Elk Valley Rancheria. When the steel prices were good, they held a steel and metal appliance event, and the line was large enough and people were eager to participate in the free event, but then they got frustrated waiting in line and they actually unloaded their materials in line and then left.
Oh, jeez.
Which made traffic problems and cleanup problems all the worse. So there are a lot of ways these things can go wrong.
Given the fact that we will not have another meeting prior to these first two events, it seems prudent to provide at least some general direction and authority to limit this in conversations with Recology. I have no problem with, if we need to say that per household, it's a limit of 3 bulky items or 4, whatever that is, what seems reasonable. I think that the board should probably provide some latitude to do that, to avoid, since this is new territory.
It is, and
Or maybe-
I
or maybe
welcome
per-
that guidance.
Or maybe per
because-
trip.
What?
You can't
Per
bring,
trip.
you can't bring in a car trailer load of, you know,
Right.
30 large items.
Then you got to go back and get in line.
Then you gotta go, yes.
Right.
Quick question, the Caltrans is going to be paying for the items, for the removal of the items.
That's correct.
Have they set any limits on how much they're willing to do?
We gave them an estimate based on the amounts that we receive on a regular basis, but assuming we probably wouldn't receive more than, say, 6 months of traffic during a single day. But it was just a ballpark estimate to give them some idea. But it was a guess, because like I said, we haven't had these kind of events, and so we're not exactly sure what the participation will be. But I do think it's reasonable to, say, put a limit of 4 per trip. That seems very reasonable, and it does also put a limit on a practical basis about how much people could bring in one day. And if they still have more than that, then there are the other days that we have scheduled.
There you go.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't want to tie your hands on a specific number, but I certainly want you to work with Recology and try to make sure that we are being responsible about how we're doing this process
Right.
as well.
But there is absolutely the possibility, even bordering on the likelihood, that as we have these events, there might be some stockpile of material that'll take
Sure.
a little while to move through. That would not surprise me at all.
Yeah. Okay. Well, do you feel like you've got
I-
clear
I
enough
thi- I think
direction?
so. I think that's enough direction. But I will take that as direction that we will limit it to 4 units per vehicle trip
Okay.
for each of these.
Just my thought with that was that the line would keep moving.
Oh,
We could get people, you know,
Yeah,
moving
if they
through
want to
there.
go back and pick up the other 4 and get back in line, then, you know,
I really appreciate the guidance.
Kind of
That's a good
reducing
conversation.
the likelihood of them offloading in the middle of the street and then leaving. I was hoping.
Right.
I was hoping. I mean, that was just my thought process behind making that suggestion. So I hope it works.
Okay, we do too.
No, I think that's the important point, is let's find a way to make it work. To
Okay.
do what we're trying to do here.
Thank you, Mike.
The other aspect of the Clean California Grant is largely just a review. We're supporting Eric Weir's, City Manager Eric Weir's efforts to try to build a plan and a team to do a more effective and comprehensive cleanup and revitalization of the forested wetlands to the west of the Crescent City Cemetery. And based on the conversations to date, it looks like a pretty solid team, and I think they'll be able to put together a pretty good proposal. But because the Caltrans process is really driven by who is the property owner, we're really in a supporting role for the city's efforts. And
Does Eric have a date for that second attempt
well,
at cleanup?
yeah, we'll be looking at, that's sort of a separate issue of continuing ongoing cleanups. This is a full-scale, potentially $1 million grant to come
Oh.
in and revitalize the area completely.
Oh, I understand. Okay.
And
Thank
so
you.
it's going to be kind of approaching it from both vantage points. Clearly, as Supervisor Starkey is well aware of, having been there for our last cleanup, there's so much work to be done, and work that we can continue to engage the community on while we move forward with this larger team. We've engaged with the Smith River Alliance. They've been very helpful of trying to help us begin to approach this, and we're reaching out to some other partners that can help us from a grant perspective. You just have to be able to show that you're building partnerships. And so I'm thankful that the Solid Waste Management Authority wants to be that supportive partner, because it takes all of us to get these applications through. So, but yeah, stay tuned. It will probably not be until January before we are in there with another community cleanup, but we are certainly planning on doing that.
And that application is due in February, and
Yes.
Caltrans has not released the final guidelines. And one of the challenging aspects of this is they want very shovel-ready projects, and just for everybody's awareness, the reality is that the timeline that they have on the money typically is shorter than the time it would take to do the environmental studies that were required under
Yeah.
most permitting processes. And so it's an irony we're trying to live with.
They do another workshop on November 18th. And I think that they extended that time because so many people complained that it wouldn't have enough time to actually get that project, the feasibility study done. I think they gave another year on that. But
Oh, that would be great news.
To expend the funds?
yeah, I believe so if I'm not mixing up my grants.
Okay,
So-
well, I
That would be
appreciate that
huge.
input.
Yeah.
does ring a bell.
Thank you. Okay, let's move on then to 6.2, which is discussion regarding our future meetings. Director Ward?
Yeah, so as you can see, we're all meeting in person today, and so I thought this item is largely to have the broader discussion about how the board wants to proceed. Are we continuing to have the default be that we're meeting in person? And if you want to continue the Zoom meetings, understanding from our legal counsel's advice about what would be required to do that.
Okay. My feeling is that we need to be here. I mean, it's we're either all here or we're either all virtual, and I don't see any compelling reason any longer for us to all be virtual. So if the situation changes here again, from a health and safety standpoint, I would certainly be supportive of that, but I don't see that that there's any urgency for that at this point in time. I don't know what the rest of the board feels about that.
No, I agree. Not all of the committees that I'm assigned to fall under that criteria, but I believe this one is one that we should be meeting in person for, unless there's any extenuating health reasons or circumstances that anybody may have that I'm unaware of.
I assume we're all vaccinated?
Just got my booster today, so I'm kind of achy. My only question is with regard to this, is my understanding, and Martha, you can help me with this, is that if a committee or a board is making decisions, they have to be in person for it. It's the ones that can still meet are like the Chamber of Commerce, where we're not really making any decisions. We're just, I don't know. I don't know what the criteria is. I certainly loved the convenience of meeting by Zoom. I really did. But our board is back meeting in person. I'm here most of the time anyway. So this works for me. But there's certain criteria you have to fall in, correct?
Yes, there are certain criteria, and we could meet those, given the local, there's a few different ways to meet the criteria, but what has to happen is the board would meet, they would decide that those criteria apply, and that we're going to begin meeting virtually again. But it's, the way I read the law is it's sort of all or nothing. Either you have to be here, or everybody has to be virtual on the board. Now, staff and the public could still, if you wanted to do the hybrid meeting, you could allow that as well. But we can't have some of the board members meeting virtually and some being here, in order to count towards a quorum and have a lawful meeting. If, I did want to state that if the, if we have another surge or something, we are allowed to meet virtually solely for the purpose of deciding if we want to have virtual meetings. So if it got really bad and it was like, well, we could have a special virtual meeting and say, do we now want to start meeting virtually? So in the future, that's an option depending on what happens.
Okay. Well, do we need specific action or just general direction that we are?
Consensus direction from the board that we will meet in person from this point forward, and if there is a surge, then I would consult the chair whether or not being a special virtual meeting to make that decision prior to the next board meeting.
Seems like a reasonable approach to me.
I prefer that, yeah.
Yeah, okay. Any public comment? Okay, then that would be our direction, Director Ward. We do not have any other items on our open session. We do have one closed session item, which is our public employee performance evaluation for our director. We do not, there will not be anything actionable item to report out on. So those of you who are joining us, we will come back and close the meeting, but there's not anything that we will be reporting out. So you're welcome to hang around and wait and wave at us, or you're welcome to go ahead and go. We thank you for being here today, and we're going to go into closed session.